Yeah, sure.
I kinda like you.
Hi, it's iRacing commentator David Haynes. In 2019, I'm excited to be bringing coverage of the Champ Car Sim Series, the sim racing division of the Champ Car Endurance Series. Contested across 15 championship rounds using the 2015 Mazda MX-5, the winners will receive a free entry into a real Champ Car Endurance Series race in the 2020 season. Each points round will be broadcast live by HJBC. Head to forum.champcar.org for full information and schedule. Sign-ups are open, so get registered now. Best of luck, and I'll see you at the track.
Shut up and sit down.
Hello, welcome to HJBC, and it gives me great pleasure to say welcome to Circuit de Barcelona Catalunya for the HJ 3 Hours of Catalunya, a very anticipated piece of content on iRacing. Has been this track, and also has been the Audi RS3 LMS TCR car that is going to be racing alongside the Porsche 911 GT3 Cup for 3 hours here. An HJ special event here on iRacing and live here on HJBC. Thank you so much for joining us for this special event. It's going to be very, very exciting to watch these new pieces of iRacing content used for a fantastic 3-hour endurance race. Lots of that racing ahead of us, and it's qualifying. It's going to be happening right now. Unfortunately, we won't be able to bring you all of, but we do look forward to this 3-hour race. I'm David Haynes, our producer is Michael Derby, and joining me right now is Andrew Fawcett. And wow, I don't think there's been many content releases people have been more excited for on iRacing than this TCR car.
No, it's been very anticipated. A lot of people excited about getting a proper front-wheel drive touring car in the sim, and the reception already has been amazing. Lots of people racing it in the Week 13 unofficial events, and I've been doing some of the same. It is a great, really fun car to race, and I think it's going to provide some really great racing today here at Catalunya.
Exactly, and what I've seen from the just a couple of days of testing that some of these teams have had with this new TCR car is that it seems like we can expect some great wheel-to-wheel, door-to-door, side-by-side racing in this car. It seems like a car where, partially because it's front-wheel drive and partially how sturdy they seem to build these things, in a event that you do get into the side of your competitor a little bit, it won't shove either of you too far off your line. You really can go door to door without too much stress in this car, I think.
Yeah, these cars front-wheel drive, obviously, which means they're easy to save. Leads to some car contact, but they're very sturdy. We've been testing out how sturdy they are. But yeah, they deal well with a little door-to-door contact, which means good for sprint racing and good for endurance racing. It means these cars are going to go 3 hours, probably no issues, unless they really get things out of shape.
Yeah, and let's talk about this track, Circuit de Barcelona Catalunya. Very well known to anyone who follows Formula One or any other sort of global series. It's hosted the Spanish Grand Prix for many, many years. And I think that's probably what people know it most for. It's also hosted plenty of other endurance racing, local Spanish racing, and many other series as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a popular track. Even just last week, the Creventic 24-hour endurance series was here with very similar cars. It was kind of the concept here was, we could model this race after a very popular 24-hour racing series. And this is a great track. Lots of fun corners. It provides good racing. There's a lot of tight corners, a lot of fast corners, good braking zones to make moves, and good places to make switchback moves as well. So I'm imagining in the first couple of laps here, especially in our TCR class, we're going to see a lot of passing going on, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, indeed. And let's not forget about the fastest class that we have racing here, the Porsche 911 GT3 Cup car. I think that's probably an interesting one to drive around this circuit as well, because we know rear-wheel drive, plenty of horsepower, pretty quick in a straight line, but no ABS, no traction control, and not a whole lot of downforce either. And this is a circuit with quite a few long sweeping corners. Definitely for the drivers who are going to be trying this circuit in that car, it's going to be a challenge for them as well.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a challenging car to drive already, but with all the fast sweeping corners and this car having the engine over the rear wheels, it's going to be difficult to manage understeer, I think, through some of these faster corners. Getting that front end grip is going to be challenging for these guys, but you know what? The 911 Cup car is a fantastic car to drive and to race, and I think we're going to see some really good battles up there as well. I think that this car and this track are going to really provide a lot of great action as some of the qualifying times are coming in. Looks like Gold Racing Team White is on the pole provisionally for the Porsche class, and Logitech G Altus Esports on our TCR pole.
Yeah, indeed. And one of the things we're going to expect out of this race is that we've put a little bit of a fuel restriction on the Porsche Cup cars to try and make them do one more pit stop than the Audis will do during the race. And hopefully that'll mean that our faster class doesn't get too far away from the Audis, and we'll probably see a little bit of strategy out of both classes. For this race, you could have one or two or even three drivers. So there'll also be some driver swaps throughout the race as well.
Yeah, stints I think for the 911 are going to be just under an hour. I think the stints for the TCR cars are going to be just over an hour. So it's going to be interesting to see how drivers manage that fuel strategy wise, whether you try to save the extra bit if you're a Porsche Cup guy, or maybe you just go flat out and take the splash and dash at the end. I definitely think that that's going to provide an interesting aspect to the race too, different strategies going on. And the other thing we can't forget is this race is going to be run with 8 times time acceleration. So basically 3-hour race, 8 times acceleration. We're going to have a full 24-hour light cycle here. So it's going to get dark pretty quick for these guys to deal with.
Indeed, and there's not a lot of circuit lighting around once we get into the night, but what they have done a fantastic job with this circuit at an iRacing is modeling a lot of the lights in the pit lane, around the paddock area, on some of the grandstands. I think our viewers and also the drivers are going to be in for a bit of a treat when we get into the night. They've done a reasonable job with this new circuit of modeling the kind of lighting you'd still expect to see around at night. It should be good to look at, and of course, also, we'll get some fluctuations in the track temperatures as well through that 24-hour day-night cycle that we're going to condense down into 3 hours of racing.
Yep, we have dynamic sky on here, and so that skybox is going to change quite a bit. We're going to have clouds and sun on different parts. Obviously, iRacing has updated some of the temperature modeling with the track too, so this is something that not a lot of guys have had experience with, especially in an endurance environment. We've just got this 3 days ago, so some interesting things with the track temp as well. The track should maintain its temperature a little bit more, so I think that we're going to see some slick tires even after the sun goes down, but it'll make for some interesting racing, that's for sure.
Yeah, certainly a little bit of a journey into the unknown in this race for quite a few of the teams, and for us as well here watching it, is that all of these teams, all of these drivers haven't had that much time to get their grips around this circuit, and especially around the Audi TCR car. So some educated guesses having to be made, and definitely we might see some teams or some drivers come to the front and have a good race here that we might not expect if they either get lucky or if they were more prepared than some of the other teams. So qualifying, I think, is just about to round out, and then we'll have a good look at what our starting grid is going to be before we go racing for 3 hours here.
Yeah, it looks like the pole for your Porsche 911 GT3 Cup is 2 Alpenstars geodesic racing cars. The geodesic racing slow on the pole, ironically. In your TCR class, it's another Alpine Stars geodesic front row. Well, they have done quite a job with qualifying here, those geodesic.
Yeah, indeed. So we'll look at the Porsche Cup. That is going to be our overall leaders and our the fastest class. So as you mentioned on the pole there, we've got Blake Neck and Nathan Lewis for the number 28 and the number 12 Alpine Stars geodesic racing cars. Then behind them, I'm seeing the I'm looking at the TCR class. It's Brendan Cronin and Miguel Vigo for geodesic racing on the front row of the Porsche 911 GT3 Cup class. And then the second row is Gold Racing Team White and Big Bone Racing 180, then Mecha Huge Ass and Boney Motors, then Big Bone Racing and HJ Anime Boogaloo, then got Racecraft Esports Tutu, one of several Racecraft Esports cars with Scuderia Familia, then Spirit of Le Mans, then Babs Nation, then Gold Racing Team Red. It's the 13 cars that we've got in the 911 GT3 Cup class, which look like, despite being 10 seconds a lap quicker or so, might be going to grid behind the Audis.
Yeah, it looks like our race director has made an interesting decision. I'm not sure what the issue is, but it'll be an interesting first lap. We'll see how it goes, as we're having a few technical difficulties. Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on. I did notice earlier in practice that iRacing was classifying the TCR cars as the faster class, even though they are 10 seconds a lap slower. So we'll just have to see how this pans out on the first lap or two. It's going to be interesting watching this faster class kind of weave their way through these slower front-wheel drive machines.
Yeah, big journey into the unknown then for those Porsches up the back. I think that would appear that it's probably on the way iRacing calculates which is the faster class there, that the Porsches have ended up behind the Audis, but I have some trust in our competitors that they'll try and negotiate that cleanly.
Well, if it's clean or not, it will definitely be entertaining as we enter turn 1 here at Catalunya. Interesting to see full pace lap. No, not a full pace lap. Sorry, I was a little nervous there. We have to watch a whole pace. We are still having some technical difficulties. We are working on it, but we'll have to go radio style here, David Haynes.
Yeah, unfortunately, some issues on my end as well. I also do not have my eyes on the racing action. And as we say, new circuit means and new car means some learning curve for our drivers, also for us here, and potentially also for the iRacing service as well. So
yep, here we go. TCR cars going into turn 1 here. Geodesic way out front. The Porsche 911 class is making their ways through the TCR class, which is quite interesting through turn 1 as the leader goes wide through turn 1 here. And these 911s are scything their way through the. And looks like everyone made it through turn 1 cleanly. No major issues. Everyone facing the correct way. And these 911s are making their way through here as well. Geodesic remains in the lead here for the 911 class, leading 1-2, Gold Racing Team right behind them. No major issues there in the Porsche class either. It looks like everyone got away cleanly, and they are still making their way through here. It looks like the TCR class has actually got away quite a bit, so TCRs look like they're a bit quicker off of the start.
Certainly the length of the main straight here at Circuit de Barcelona Catalunya should give a good opportunity for the Porsches to get past. We know that the top end speed of the Audis can sometimes be around 230 kilometers an hour, but 270 for the Porsche is definitely possible.
Oh, looks like we have an issue. The number 28 geodesic car that was on your pole started P1 has been hit. They have spun around. They got it going again, and they are moving. I'm trying to figure out what happened.
One users, same as the Creventic 24-hour series users, not the motorcycle layout, not the club layout or the national layout.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a interesting last chicane with this layout as well, as it looks like our pole sitter in TCR is down to 22nd. This is a long race, however, so they'll have plenty of time to make their way through the TCR class. And we're continuing to have some technical difficulties with the iRacing service, but we will try to bring you more radio-style coverage of this race, as looks like the 911s are now just getting their way through the TCR class. The leader in Porsche Cup class is just now getting through the back mark. And looks like we're having quite a bit of disconnects, unfortunately, too. So this is what happens, you know. Sometimes we have issues with the, you know, new build, and that's just part. And, you know, we're seeing the 911s make their way through a giant gaggle of TCR cars here. And we were kind of expecting to see this maybe 10 laps into the race, as they've kind of caught him. But we're going to kind of get a bonus. We'll see it on the second lap here, as they're making their way through. Brandon Cronin making his way through all the TCR cars here. And he is about halfway through the field, as some of the other Porsches are also in tow. Good run for Geodesic Black as well. Second place in Porsche Cup. They are still second place. Looks like most of the top five here are about the same for your Porsche Cup class. No big movers or shakers there.
I'd like to apologize to all of our viewers and competitors having any technical issues today. Somewhat outside of our control and ability to test for. So I think the race goes on, and at this point it will be radio huge ass for any coverage of this event, unless we can find some other workaround during this race, I think.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that you have these issues, but you know, this is what happens when software is updated, and we'll try the best we can to bring you the coverage we can. This is new for all of us. I've never done a radio-style broadcast, but we'll make do. Looks like Logitech G Altus Esports is still your overall leader in TCR classes. The 911s are still making their way through. Racecraft Esports 2 and Racecraft Esports 2 are second and third in your TCR class. Looks like Geodesic Racing Gold has dropped to fourth. The Porsches are just about to the top 10 as far as TCR class. They're still making their way through. Quite a big gaps through the Porsche 911 class, having to go through the traffic right away. So we'll just have to keep an eye on that, how long it takes those guys to make their way through traffic. Obviously, the 911 is much different than the TCR car. TCR front-wheel drive, front engine, turbocharged, so it's probably going to be a little better on the brakes. It's a little lighter. Going to be maybe a little bit better through the corners, but as soon as they get to a straight, man, that 911 will just take off and pass them with ease.
Yeah, indeed. Just over 300-ish horsepower for the TCR car, while we look at about 485, I believe, for the Porsche. And it does put the power down pretty nicely, even if it doesn't brake or turn with quite as much precision, as it can really put that power down with the weight over the rear axle.
Yeah, yep. The traction out of the corners is obviously going to be a lot better for those 911s with the big heavy engine over the back wheels. And you know, the TCR cars, obviously front drive, putting the throttle down is going to be quite a bit more difficult than your 911.
what I'm hearing is that these technical issues, not just for our producer here, but also for several of the teams as well. So unfortunate there. We know this iRacing build was delayed 24 hours in pursuit of some issues that were causing some situations where the simulation would crash, and I'm sure many of us had hoped that they had found whatever that issue was, and I'm not sure that that has been the case at this point in this build.
Yeah, it's frustrating for sure, but you know, there's nothing we can do about it now. We're just trying to make the best of it. Looks like Mecha Huge Ass with Sven Demmel behind the wheels, making his way through these 911s and TCRs. He's up to second place in your 911 class, and he is chasing down Alpinestars Geodesic Racing Slow, but still the traffic in the way. Looks like they're just about to the top 5 in the TCR class, making their ways through as just the Racing Slow crosses our finish line, and the 911s are back in the overall lead. Some order has been restored. And looks like everyone's running. Unfortunately, we have some disconnects too, which is difficult, but everyone out there seems to be running little issues. I think the server might be stabilizing a little bit, but good battles all the way through your field in both classes. Logitech G Altus Esports with Andrew Call behind the wheel has a 5.8 second gap over the closest TCR car. That's the Racecraft Esports 2 car. Big gaps in the top 5 in your TCR class, having to deal with lap traffic with the Porsches making their way through. So big gaps there as we see some fast laps coming in from both the TCR class and the Porsche class. Mecha Huge Ass has finally made their way past the TCR leader, as the TCR leader is making a pass on the number 48 car, who is going a lap down in TCR. A bit of adversity dealing with server issues, as well as a wacky gridding order. The top 5 in your Porsche 911 class have now made it to the overall lead, and Big Bone Racing number 180 has finally made it past the overall leader, the leader in TCR. So some normal order coming here, and we are going to step away for a second and try to sort some of our issues here. We will be back shortly, so stay tuned. Thank you, guys.